We've got some interesting news coming out of Everland in South Korea, and that is T-Express, the park's Intamin Prefabricated Wooden Roller Coaster, will be shutting down starting November 20th of this year. The ride will apparently be receiving extensive maintenance in the form of retracking the ride's first section, which presumably is from the first drop to the mid-course brake run. According to this announcement from the park, the ride is scheduled to reopen in April of 2024. Everland is open year-round, and normally T-Express only closes for maintenance from early January to late February. The park actually seems to routinely run the coaster in colder weather, and there are many videos of T-Express operating with not only snow on the ground, but also snow on the attraction itself. According to locals who visit Everland quite often, T-Express has actually grown quite rough over the last few years. Similar to El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure, pass holders and park visitors have been criticizing the ride for its strong vibrations and jackhammering. It is apparently roughest in the opening section where the ride dives into a tight turnaround and S-bend following the first airtime hill. One local who has grown up with T-Express and has been riding it since it opened told me the coaster suddenly grew rough between the years of 2019 and 2023, to the point that it can now even be painful. With 30 rides clocked in this year, they describe severe jackhammering on some parts of the ride, like on the coaster's roughest section where it exits the first airtime hill into this tight turn that leads into the S-curve. Apparently a large jolt occurs as you enter the curve. Also, according to them, some of the turnarounds in the Balder section of the ride are a little rough, but not as bad as the S-curve. Apparently, it's bad enough that Intamin advised Everland not to operate T-Express with all 3 trains. The park instead operates the coaster with just 2 trains as part of an effort to cycle the ride less often and prevent its condition from worsening too quickly. Now, T-Express has a long duration of over 3 minutes, so running 2 trains on it is worse than running 2 trains on El Toro or the other Intamin Prefabs, which have much shorter durations around 2 minutes. Everland apparently hasn't run 3 trains on T-Express since 2021, which is a shame as they used to operate the coaster quite well, with some dispatches placing trains high up the lift hill as the one on the course finished the circuit. But now, the park has allegedly instructed the ride crew to purposely wait for the second train to stack before dispatching the next train. The ride crew will commonly have each train ready to dispatch well before the train on the circuit returns to the station. So during that wait period, the ride crew will instruct guests waiting in line to stretch, which apparently is to help them prepare for the coaster. This is apparently a further effort to cycle the ride even less often, as well as to prevent any potential damage to the trains themselves, but it's come at the sacrifice of rider capacity. Apparently, this limits the ride to 3-minute dispatches, which is 20 trains an hour, and with the ride's 36 passenger trains leads to just 720 riders per hour, whereas in the past with 3 train operations, dispatches could be quick enough where one train would be midway through the Balder section, while another train was approaching the lift hill. The train on the lift hill would then be nearing the top as the train on the course hit the final brake run. I estimate this cycle time to be about 1 minute and 50 seconds, yielding over 32 dispatches an hour and a theoretical 1,152 riders per hour. According to Intamin, the ride is capable of 1,500 riders per hour, but based on Intamin's track record, this may not physically be possible, although I'd love to dive into that in a separate video if you guys are interested. Anyway, Everland can attract pretty large crowds, and according to locals, T-Express can now see wait times of 3 hours, sometimes even 4 hours on busy days due to the purposefully hindered operations. Everland actually posted a video about the coaster closing where a ride technician explains that T-Express has 2 sections, which I'd guess alludes to the El Toro-like section in the beginning and the Balder section at the end following the mid-course brake run. Using Google Translate, the technician seems to say the first section will be receiving newly improved rails that will make the experience smoother. I assume these would be new prefabricated wooden track rails like what the ride opened with, but according to another local, they actually claim the coaster may be retracked with steel rails, making the coaster a hybrid. Time will tell, however, if that is the case. I guess at this point, T-Express experiencing issues falls in line with the other 3 Intamin Prefab wood coasters. As I'm sure you already know, Colossus at Haida Park, the first Intamin Prefab, had major issues which kept the ride closed for years and led to the coaster being fully retracked. Balder at Liseberg, the second Prefab, has probably seen the least number of issues, but also closed for a majority of the 2022 season as it received a substantial amount of new track. El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure has become quite infamous now for suffering 2 major accidents in back-to-back years, while also growing a reputation for becoming quite rough. And now we have T-Express that appears to be growing quite rough as well. Interestingly, Colossus was shut down 15 years after it opened in 2016. El Toro had its first accident 15 years after it opened in 2021. And now T-Express's condition 15 years after it opened is apparently bad enough that it can't operate with all 3 of its trains. Overall, there seems to be a trend here with the Intamin Prefab product. Now, I wouldn't say this makes the product terrible, as these woodies are able to offer far more forceful and dynamic experiences compared to typical wooden coasters, while also being much easier to maintain than a typical wood coaster. And this is while technically being true wooden coasters, unlike hybrids. I think the major downfall with the product is that they are not as maintenance free as what Intamin originally claimed, and that the roughness becomes far more noticeable at an earlier point of track degradation because of the steel coaster like G-forces the prefabs exert. So as disheartening as this may sound for the Intamin prefab product, I guess this is pretty expected at this point. What I'm happy to hear though is that Everland is taking initiative and retracking what seems like a substantial amount of T-Express. From watching YouTube videos of the coaster at home in North America while located thousands of miles away from it, it always seemed like Everland took good care of the coaster, as its track rails look far less rusted or discolored compared to the track rails in El Toro. But I guess preventative maintenance can only go so far until the wooden rails have lost their perfect shaping and no longer offer the original gloss smooth experience. Anyway, I just wanted to update you all on the status of T-Express in case any of you were planning to visit Everland during the months the ride will be closed. And also because I've always found Intamin's prefabs to be one of the most interesting coaster products on the market. I very much hope the coasters retract with prefab wooden track pieces and not steel track pieces, as not only is T-Express part of a rare coaster product, but it's also the only wood coaster to ever exist in South Korea. Personally, I'd rather see Everland purchase a separate RMC coaster than convert T-Express into a hybrid. Plus, that would make for a pretty amazing coaster lineup. But anyway, thanks for watching, and be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and comment down below what you think of the situation in the Intamin prefab product. If you've ridden T-Express, and especially recently, please let me know what you thought of the ride and how rough it was. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future nerdy roller coaster content. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.